I am Abigail, 28, and I worked overtime for 6 years to afford my Manhattan apartment. When my younger sister Natalie, 25, claimed she needed a temporary place to stay after her breakup, I reluctantly agreed. Little did I know she would transform from grateful guest to entitled roommate, treating my hard-earned home like her personal palace. My parents always took her side, but everything changed the day Grandpa George uncovered what was really happening behind my back. Before I continue, let me know where you are watching from. Hit that like button and subscribe to hear how my grandfather exposed the painful truth that finally set me free. The day I signed the lease on my 2-bedroom apartment in Chelsea was the proudest moment of my life. After 6 grueling years of working 60-hour weeks, taking on freelance projects during weekends, and living with 4 roommates in a cramped Brooklyn apartment, I finally had a place to call my own. My journey hadn't been easy. I graduated with $80,000 in student loans and started as an assistant at a small marketing firm making just enough to cover my loans and ramen noodles. Each promotion felt like climbing another rung on an endless ladder. First to junior marketing associate, then content strategist, senior strategist, and finally, marketing executive. Every step was hard-fought. I packed lunches while colleagues ordered takeout. I skipped vacations while friends posted Instagram photos from exotic beaches. I worked holidays when others spent time with family. But that key in my hand made every sacrifice worthwhile. My apartment wasn't luxurious by New York standards, but it was mine. The 2nd bedroom functioned as my home office, with a pull-out couch for the occasional guest. The living room featured a comfortable sectional sofa I had saved for months to purchase. My kitchen was small but efficient, with the decent appliances and cookware I had accumulated over time. I had decorated carefully, finding affordable art and furniture that made the space feel like home. My sanctuary. Growing up, I learned early that I would have to work twice as hard for half the recognition. While I studied and maintained straight A's, my sister Natalie breezed through school with charm and mediocre grades. Our parents justified their different standards with excuses: Abigail is naturally smart, or Natalie just needs more encouragement. When I made the honor roll, my parents nodded approvingly. When Natalie passed with CS, they threw her a celebration dinner. Christmas told the same story. My practical gifts, books, school supplies, savings bonds, contrasted with Natalie's haul of trendy clothes, electronics, and jewelry. When I questioned the disparity as a teenager, Mom said, "You're so independent, Abigail. Natalie needs more support." Only Grandpa George seemed to notice. A retired judge with a spine of steel and eyes that missed nothing, he treated us equally, praising my accomplishments and holding Natalie accountable. "Your sister has a different path," he would tell me during our private conversations, "but that doesn't make yours less valuable. Keep climbing, Abby. The view is best for those who earn it." The call from Natalie came on a Tuesday evening as I prepared a simple dinner after a 12-hour workday. Her voice sounded thick with tears. "Jason and I broke up," she said between sobs. "He said he needs space. After 3 years." "I'm sorry," I said, genuinely sympathetic despite the knot forming in my stomach. I knew what was coming. "I need to move out of his place, but I can't afford anything decent right now." The unspoken request hung between us. "Natalie. Just for a few weeks, Abby. Please? I promise I'll find something quickly. I just need to get back on my feet." I hesitated. My office would become a bedroom again. My peaceful routine disrupted. But she was my sister, and she sounded desperate. "Let me think about. Mom and Dad said you have that 2nd bedroom you use as an office. You could work at the kitchen table for a little while, right? For family?" Of course they had already discussed this without me. I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Fine. Temporarily. You're the best." Her voice had already brightened considerably. "I'll be there this weekend." Temporarily turned out to be a relative term. Natalie arrived on Saturday with 4 massive suitcases, 3 boxes, and a designer handbag collection that required its own storage solution. I had cleared half the closet in the second bedroom and emptied 2 dresser drawers. This is it? She looked around my office-turned-bedroom with barely concealed disappointment. Where will all my stuff go? You said this was temporary, I reminded her. I thought you'd bring the essentials. These are the essentials. She gestured to her mountain of possessions. I had to leave so much at Mom and Dad's. I helped her unpack, watching as designer clothes with tags still attached emerged from her suitcases. For someone between jobs, she had an impressive wardrobe. When I asked about her employment plans, she waved dismissively. I have some interviews lined up. Don't worry, I'll contribute once I'm settled. She arranged an expensive-looking skincare collection on the bathroom counter, displacing my few drugstore products. This place is cute. A little basic, but we can fix that. I chose to ignore the comment. House rules are simple. Clean up after yourself, let me know if you're having guests over, and quiet hours after 10 p.m. on weeknights since I wake up early. Sure. She was already taking selfies in front of my window with the city view. This lighting is amazing. My followers are going to love this. Something told me I should clarify expectations further, but I wanted to start on a positive note. It'll be nice to spend some sister time together, I offered. Natalie glanced up from her phone. Definitely. This is going to be great, Abby. You'll see. How wrong I was. During that first week, Natalie made small gestures that felt like genuine effort. She washed dishes after using them, texted before coming home late, and even picked up takeout for us both one evening. She spent her days supposedly submitting job applications and networking, dressed in business casual outfits that suggested legitimate interviews. How was the interview? I asked one evening after she returned. Great connection. Nothing formal yet, but they'll definitely be calling. Her answers were always vague but delivered with such confidence that I initially didn't question them. By week 2, subtle shifts began. Dishes lingered in the sink. Her belongings migrated from the second bedroom to the living room. A cashmere throw over my sofa, her slippers perpetually under the coffee table, her magazines found across surfaces previously kept clear. The bathroom counter became increasingly crowded with her beauty products, my items pushed to a small corner. I returned home one Friday to find 3 women I'd never met lounging on my sofa, drinking what I recognized as an expensive bottle of wine I had been saving for a special occasion. Abby. Perfect timing. Natalie called from the kitchen where she arranged cheese and crackers on my serving platter. These are my friends from college. We're having a little girls' night. The women barely acknowledged me as Natalie made hasty introductions. One had her feet, shoes still on, propped on my coffee table. I wish you'd given me a heads up, I said quietly, pulling Natalie aside. I texted you, she replied defensively. No, you didn't. I meant to, then. Don't be so uptight, they're just visiting. That's my special occasion wine. I'll replace it. She rejoined her friends, dismissing me entirely. I retreated to my bedroom, listening as their laughter grew louder, music began playing, and more voices joined the gathering. What had started as a girls' night with 3 friends evolved into a party with at least a dozen people. They left around 2 a.m., leaving behind empty bottles, food stains on my sofa, and a kitchen that looked like a disaster zone. The wine was never replaced. The following week, I noticed charges on my credit card I didn't recognize: food delivery services, rideshare trips, online shopping. When confronted, Natalie looked genuinely surprised. Oh. I must have saved my details on your laptop when I borrowed it. I'll pay you back. But she never did. Her social media told a different story than the one I was living. Posts showcased my new NYC apartment with carefully angled photos that excluded any evidence of my existence. She posed with morning coffee on her balcony and tagged expensive restaurants with captions like "Just Another Tuesday." Her Instagram stories featured apartment tours where she referred to my bedroom as the guest room. Our shared living space steadily transformed. Scented candles I was allergic to appeared on side tables. Throw pillows I hadn't purchased adorned the couch. A large decorative mirror was mounted on the wall without discussion. When I objected to these changes, Natalie's response was always some variation of, "I'm just making it homier. Don't you think it looks better?" The financial burden grew steadily. My grocery bill doubled, then tripled, as Natalie helped herself to everything while contributing nothing. The utilities spiked from her hour-long showers and habit of leaving every light on. Small items went missing, my favorite sweater, earrings, even cash from my emergency drawer. 3 weeks into her stay, I sat her down for a serious conversation. "Natalie, we need to discuss expectations. It's been nearly a month, and I haven't seen you actively job hunting." She sighed dramatically. "You have no idea how hard I'm trying. I had 2 interviews just yesterday." "Where?" "Marketing firms downtown. They're very exclusive." "Which ones?" "That's my industry." Her eyes darted away. "I don't remember the names offhand. Anyway, I'm waiting to hear back. And in the meantime, you need to contribute to expenses. The food, utilities, toiletries, it's all adding up. I told you I'll pay you when I get a job." Her tone sharpened. "What do you expect me to do? I have no income right now. Maybe cut back on shopping?" I saw the packages arriving. Those were necessities. "I need professional clothes for interviews." I pressed further. "And the daily food deliveries? The $200 salon appointment?" Her expression darkened. "Are you monitoring my spending?" "That's creepy, Abby." "I'm monitoring my credit card, which you've been using without permission." Tears filled her eyes. "I can't believe you treat me like this when I'm at my lowest. You have no idea what I'm going through." The conversation ended with a slammed door and Natalie calling our mother, who phoned me minutes later. "Your sister is sobbing," Mom accused. "How could you be so insensitive?" "Mom, she's taking advantage. She just went through a devastating breakup, and now she feels unwelcome in her own sister's home." "Is that extra bedroom really so important to you?" "It's not about the bedroom. It's about respect and boundaries. Family supports family, Abigail. Your father and I are disappointed." That night, Natalie returned late with shopping bags and a smug expression. The message was clear: she had won this round. By the 2-month mark, Natalie had established herself as the apartment's primary resident, with me increasingly feeling like an unwelcome guest. My home office had been completely transformed into her personal boudoir. The pull-out couch disappeared under piles of clothes. My desk was repurposed as her vanity, makeup products covering the surface where I used to work. The walls now featured her framed photos and motivational quotes in rose gold lettering proclaiming "treat yourself" and "good vibes only." I had been relegated to working at the kitchen table, which was itself often unusable due to Natalie's breakfast dishes or beauty products. Even my bedroom wasn't sacred. I would return from work to find subtle signs of her presence. The position of my pillows changed, my perfume used, drawers slightly ajar. One particularly exhausting Wednesday, I came home eager to change into the cashmere sweater I had been looking forward to all day, only to find it missing from my closet. After searching frantically, I found it in the bathroom hamper, stretched, stained with what looked like red wine, and reeking of unfamiliar perfume. "Natalie!" I called out, holding the ruined garment. She emerged from her room in face mask and silk pajamas, looking annoyed at the interruption. "What?" "This was a $200 sweater I saved for months to buy. You didn't even ask." She barely glanced at it. "Oh, that. Yeah, I spilled a little on it last night. Just wash it, it'll be fine. It's cashmere. It needs special cleaning, and this stain might never come out. We're sisters, what's the big deal? You can borrow my clothes anytime." "I don't want to borrow your clothes. I want you to respect my belongings and ask before taking them." She rolled her eyes. "God, you're so uptight about your stuff. It's just a sweater." It's not just the sweater, Natalie. It's everything. You've taken over my home and show zero respect for my space or my things. Taken over? She laughed incredulously. I'm living out of one tiny bedroom while you have this whole apartment to yourself most of the time. If anyone should be complaining, it's me. The conversation devolved from there into familiar territory, her tears, accusations of my selfishness, and eventually, a call to our parents. That night, my father phoned. Your sister feels like you're treating her like a burden, he said without preamble. Dad, she ruined my clothes, uses my credit card without permission, and has completely taken over my apartment. She's going through a difficult transition. Can't you be a little more understanding? Maybe if money is tight, you should consider moving to a more affordable place. The suggestion stunned me into silence. After working so hard for this apartment, my father was suggesting I give it up because my sister couldn't respect boundaries. I need to go, was all I could manage before hanging up. The entitlement only worsened. Natalie began asking. Then expecting me to cook dinner for us both. You're already cooking for yourself, she would reason, and I'm so exhausted from job hunting. On nights I worked late, she would text demands, can you pick up Thai food on your way home? I'm starving. If I suggested she order her own food, the response was predictable, I'm broke right now, you know that. Yet somehow she wasn't too broke for weekly manicures, new clothes, or nights out with friends, nights that increasingly ended with strange men in our apartment. I was awoken at 3 a.m. one Tuesday to giggling and shushing in the living room. Leaving my bedroom, I discovered Natalie and a man I had never met drinking my wine on my couch. Oh, hey Abby. Natalie smiled brightly as if this were perfectly normal. This is Rick? Ryan? We met at Lighthouse tonight. The man, clearly intoxicated, raised his glass in a sloppy salute. It's a work night, Natalie. I have a presentation in the morning. We'll be quiet, she promised, then laughed loudly at something the stranger whispered. I returned to my room, locking the door and putting in earplugs, but sleep was impossible. The next day, I bombed the presentation I had prepared for weeks, missing out on a potential promotion. When I arrived home that evening, Natalie was napping peacefully. The stranger was gone, but 2 wine glasses remained on the coffee table alongside crumbs and an empty container of my specially imported cheese. My favorite throw pillow had a fresh stain. The final indignity came a week later. After working until 10 p.m., I returned to find my bedroom door locked. Confused, I knocked, only to hear Natalie's voice. Just a minute. The door opened to reveal Natalie in my bathrobe, my bedroom transformed for what appeared to be a date night. Candles, fire hazard, burned on my dresser. 2 plates of half-eaten food sat on my bed. A strange man stood awkwardly by my window. What is happening here? I was too shocked to even yell. My room is too small for dinner, Natalie explained breezily. We'll be done in an hour or so. Can you watch TV in the living room? This is my bedroom. Get out. Now. Don't be rude, she hissed, glancing at her date. We're in the middle of something. Out. The man, at least, had the decency to look embarrassed as he gathered his shoes and jacket. Natalie, however, was furious. Thanks for humiliating me, she spat once he had left. He's a finance guy, do you know how hard those are to find in this city? I was trembling with rage. I don't care if he's the crown prince. You do not use my bedroom for dates. Ever. It's not like you were using it, she shot back. Your love life is non-existent. When's the last time you even had a date? I slept on the couch that night, unable to face the thought of my bed after their dinner date. In the morning, Natalie acted as if nothing had happened, casually asking if I could pick up her dry cleaning after work. The breaking point came exactly 1 week later. I had a rare Friday evening free and planned to relax with a book and early bedtime. Instead, I opened my apartment door to find at least 15 strangers in my living room. Music blasted from my speakers. Someone had moved my furniture to create a dance floor. A makeshift bar occupied my kitchen counter, bottles of alcohol I didn't recognize lined up beside red cups and mixers. Natalie spotted me and bounced over, clearly already intoxicated. Surprise! I thought you were working late. What is this? I had to shout over the music. Just a few friends. Come on, loosen up. She tried to push a drink into my hand. I spotted a couple disappearing into my bedroom and rushed over, finding them about to close the door. That room is off limits, I said firmly, physically blocking the entrance. For the next hour, I moved through my own apartment like security, preventing people from entering private spaces, rescuing my belongings from potential damage, and trying to locate Natalie. I finally found her in the bathroom with two friends, a small mirror between them. That was it. I marched to the sound system and cut the music. In the sudden silence, all eyes turned to me. Party's over, I announced. Everyone out. Now. After the last guest stumbled out, Natalie unleashed her fury. How dare you embarrass me like that? Those were important people for my networking. Networking? You were doing cocaine in my bathroom. It wasn't, that was just, you're so dramatic. She stumbled slightly, catching herself on the wall. Those people think I'm cool and fun. Unlike you. Cool and fun? I gestured to my apartment, now in shambles. Is this your idea of cool? Destroying someone else's home? Taking advantage of their generosity? Oh please. You're just jealous because people actually like me. When's the last time you had friends over? Oh right, you don't have any because you're a pathetic workaholic with no life. Her words hit their mark. I felt a familiar sting, the same feeling I'd had growing up when she would effortlessly win friends and parental favor while I struggled for recognition. I built a life I'm proud of, I said, my voice shaking. I worked for everything in this apartment. And what good is it doing you? You're almost 30 with no boyfriend, no friends, and your only excitement is color-coding spreadsheets. She laughed cruelly. I've been here 2 months and I've lived more than you have in 6 years. You haven't been living, you've been mooching. And it ends now. Starting tomorrow, you pay rent or you leave. She snorted. With what money? You know I'm between jobs. That's not my problem. Figure it out or pack your bags. You can't throw me out. I'm family. Her voice took on a calculating edge. What would mom and dad say? I don't care anymore. This is my apartment and my life that you're ruining. Fine. She pulled out her phone. Let's see what they think about their eldest daughter throwing her little sister onto the street. She dialed with exaggerated movements, putting the call on speaker. Natalie? It's late, is everything okay? Our mother's voice sounded concerned. Abby's kicking me out, she sobbed, tears materializing on command. She says I have to leave tomorrow with nowhere to go. What? Put your sister on. I took the phone, prepared for battle. Mom. Abigail Catherine Morgan, what is wrong with you? Your sister needs support right now. She's taking advantage of me. She threw a party in my apartment tonight with drugs, Mom. Drugs? Don't be ridiculous. Natalie wouldn't do drugs. The dismissal was so automatic it left me speechless. If there were drugs, it was someone else. She's been using my credit card, wearing my clothes, taking over my space. So this is about money and possessions? I raised you better than that. This isn't about. If money is tight, your father and I have always said you should find a more reasonable place. New York is too expensive anyway. I can afford my place just fine without supporting Natalie's shopping addiction. Now you're just being cruel. Your sister is trying to get back on her feet after a devastating breakup. It's been 2 months, Mom. She's not even looking for jobs. Of course she is. She tells us about her interviews all the time. I laughed bitterly. And you believe her without question, as always. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing. It doesn't matter. But I'm serious about this, she either contributes or leaves. I heard my father's voice in the background, then he came on the line. Abigail, be reasonable. Your sister doesn't have an income right now. That's not my problem. It's a family problem, and family supports each other. Your mother and I are very disappointed in your attitude. After they hung up, Natalie smirked triumphantly. Told you. They always take my side. She was right, and we both knew it. The realization crushed something inside me. I had been fighting this battle my entire life and never once won. I retreated to my bedroom, surveying the damage from Natalie's interrupted date night. As I changed the sheets, tears blurred my vision. I felt utterly alone and betrayed, not just by my sister but by my parents who had never, would never, take my side. At 1 a.m., with sleep impossible, I called the one person who had always seen me clearly. Grandpa George? My voice cracked. I'm sorry to call so late. Abby girl. His voice, though concerned, brought immediate comfort. What's wrong? The whole story poured out of me, Natalie's invasion, her entitlement, the party, my parents' reaction. He listened without interruption until I ran out of words. I just don't know what to do anymore, I finished, exhaustion weighing down every syllable. I'm starting to think I'm the crazy one. You're not crazy, Abby. You're being manipulated by experts. What do I do? If I kick her out, my parents will never forgive me. Come see me this weekend, he said firmly. I think it's time you heard some truths that have been kept from you for too long. What truths? Not over the phone. Can you drive up Saturday morning? Despite my confusion, I felt a glimmer of hope. I'll be there by 10. Good girl. And Abby? Lock up your valuables before you leave. When we disconnected, I felt like I was standing on the edge of something momentous. Whatever Grandpa George knew, it would change everything, I was certain of that much. The drive to Connecticut Saturday morning cleared my head. Each mile between me and the apartment lifted a fraction of the weight from my shoulders. I had left early, while Natalie still slept, leaving a note that I'd be gone for the weekend. Before leaving, I had followed Grandpa's advice, moving my important documents, jewelry, and the emergency cash that remained into a lockbox hidden in my closet. Grandpa's house hadn't changed in 20 years, a stately colonial on 2 acres with a wraparound porch where he spent summer evenings. As a child, this place had been my refuge during difficult times. It felt fitting to return now, at perhaps my lowest point. He met me at the door with a warm hug, his tall frame still strong despite his 82 years. Inside, the familiar scents of coffee and cinnamon filled the air. Made your favorite, he said, leading me to the kitchen where fresh cinnamon rolls waited. You look exhausted, kiddo. Haven't been sleeping well. I imagine not, with the situation you described. We settled at his kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through windows overlooking his meticulously maintained garden. For a few minutes, we ate in companionable silence. So, he finally said, tell me more about Natalie's spending habits. The question seemed oddly specific, but I obliged, describing the shopping sprees, salon visits, and nights out that contradicted her claims of financial distress. And you mentioned she's been using your credit card? Yes, without permission. She claims it was an accident, but it keeps happening. He nodded thoughtfully. Have you noticed any other financial irregularities? Missing cash? Unexpected withdrawals? A chill ran through me. How did you know? I had an emergency fund in my desk drawer, about $500. It's disappeared $100 at a time. And last week, I got a notification about an attempted withdrawal from my savings account that I didn't authorize. Grandpa's expression darkened. I was afraid of that. What's going on, Grandpa? Why all these questions about money? He sighed heavily and stood. Let's move to the study. There are some things I need to show you. His study remained as I remembered, walls lined with law books, the smell of leather and old paper, his massive oak desk dominating the room. But instead of taking his usual seat behind the desk, he gestured me to join him on the leather sofa beneath the window. From a drawer, he removed a thick folder. "I've been watching this situation develop for some time, Abby. What I'm about to tell you may be difficult to hear." My stomach tightened. "Just tell me." "When your grandmother passed 15 years ago, she left specific instructions about her inheritance. She had always been concerned about the family dynamics, particularly how your parents favored Natalie." This wasn't news to me, but hearing it acknowledged so plainly was both painful and validating. "Against my advice, your parents always made excuses for Natalie's behavior while holding you to higher standards. Sarah, your grandmother, worried about how this would affect both of you long term." He opened the folder, revealing legal documents. "She established 2 trust funds, one for you and one for Natalie. Equal amounts, accessible at age 21, with me as trustee." I stared at him, confused. "A trust fund? But no one ever told me." "That was your parents' decision. When Natalie turned 21, they informed her immediately. She received access to her trust, approximately $220,000. The amount made me gasp. That's a significant amount of money. Indeed. Your grandmother was quite successful in her investments. However, when you turned 21, your parents convinced me to remain silent." "Why would they do that?" "Their reasoning was that you were already responsible, working through college, building your career. They claimed the money would be better as a safety net for later, perhaps when you wanted to buy a home or start a family." "And you agreed to this?" I couldn't keep the hurt from my voice. "No, I argued against it, but as a compromise, I agreed to wait until you were settled in your career. I planned to tell you when you turned 25, but by then, a new complication had arisen." He turned a page in the folder. Natalie had burned through her entire trust in less than 3 years. "All of it? How is that even possible? Designer clothes, luxury vacations, an expensive car she later crashed, bankrolling so-called friends. Your sister has expensive tastes and poor judgment." The timeline suddenly clarified in my mind. "So when she started dating Jason?" "Precisely. Jason came from money and supported her lifestyle after her trust ran out. Your parents have been supplementing her finances as well, though they can ill afford it with retirement approaching. And now that she and Jason broke up, she needed a new source of support." He looked at me meaningfully. "You." The realization hit me like a physical blow. So her moving in with me wasn't about needing emotional support during a breakup. She needed financial support because she's broke. I suspect the breakup was real. From what I've gathered, Jason tired of financing her lifestyle. But yes, her primary motivation for moving in with you was financial. And my parents knew this? They were in on it? Grandpa hesitated. "I don't believe they orchestrated it, but they certainly enabled it. They've been bailing Natalie out for years. When she suggested moving in with you, they likely saw it as solving 2 problems, providing for Natalie while reducing their own financial burden." My mind raced through implications. "But why not just tell me about my trust then? If I had access to that money." "Ah." His expression turned grim. "This is where it gets more troubling. Your trust has been managed conservatively and has grown significantly. With interest and investments, it's now worth over $300,000. That's life-changing money." "Indeed. And I believe your parents feared that if you knew about it, you might not be as willing to support Natalie. Or worse, from their perspective, you might use it to establish even more independence." The betrayal cut deep. My own parents. They've convinced themselves they're protecting you both in different ways. You from materialism, Natalie from consequences. He placed a gentle hand on my shoulder. "But there's more, and it's worse than simple enabling." He pulled out printed screenshots of text messages, emails, and bank statements. I hired a private investigator when you first mentioned Natalie moving in. What he found suggests a pattern of deliberate financial exploitation. I reviewed the evidence with growing horror. Text messages between Natalie and our mother discussing how to borrow from my emergency fund without my noticing. Emails where she bragged to friends about using my credit card and living rent-free in her New York apartment. Bank records showing transfers from my accounts that I had never authorized. "She's been stealing from me systematically," I whispered. "And my parents have been helping her. Not directly with the theft, from what I can tell, but they've been coaching her on how to maintain her position in your apartment and deflect your concerns." Tears burned in my eyes. Why? Why would they do this? Your parents have always struggled with enabling Natalie. When she exhausted her trust fund, they started supporting her financially. But with retirement approaching, their resources are stretched thin. You became the convenient solution. So I'm just an ATM? A free housing option? To Natalie, perhaps. Your parents likely tell themselves it's about family supporting family. They've never recognized how their favoritism harms both of you, Natalie by never learning responsibility, you by carrying burdens that aren't yours to bear. I wiped my tears, anger replacing hurt. What about my trust fund now? Do I have access to it? You've had legal access since you turned 21. I've maintained it as trustee only because you didn't know it existed. Once you sign these papers, you'll have full control. He slid documents across the table. I should have told you years ago, Abby. I thought I was respecting your parents' wishes while protecting your interests, but I see now I failed you. You didn't fail me, Grandpa. You're telling me now. I took a deep breath. So what do I do about Natalie? That depends on what you want. Legally, you could press charges for the theft and unauthorized use of your credit cards. At minimum, I'd suggest eviction and financial separation. My parents would never forgive me. Perhaps not immediately. But enabling Natalie further serves no one, including her. He outlined a plan, documenting the theft, changing all passwords and accounts, formal eviction if necessary, and most importantly, confronting the family dynamics that had led to this situation. Will you be there? I asked, feeling like a child seeking protection. Every step of the way, he promised. It's time this family had some truth. By Sunday afternoon, armed with documentation, legal advice, and Grandpa's unwavering support, I felt prepared to reclaim my life, not just my apartment, but my sense of self-worth and family position. The trust fund information was still sinking in. I had struggled for years, believing financial independence was something I alone had to earn through sacrifice and hard work. All while a substantial safety net had existed without my knowledge. The money itself was welcome, but the revelation of how my parents had hidden it. And why, transformed my understanding of my family permanently. Ready to head back and face the music? Grandpa asked as we stood on his porch. Not really, I admitted. But it's time. He hugged me tightly. You're stronger than you know, Abby girl. I'll be right behind you tomorrow. Driving back to New York, I felt a strange mixture of grief and liberation. The family I thought I had didn't exist. But perhaps the truth, however painful, would allow for something more honest to emerge from the ashes. When I returned to my apartment Sunday evening, I found Natalie entertaining yet another stranger on my sofa. They were watching a movie on my laptop, sharing a bottle of wine I definitely hadn't purchased. My artwork had been rearranged, and a new throw blanket I'd never seen draped across my reading chair. "Oh hey," Natalie said casually, as if nothing were amiss. "This is Derek. We met at brunch." I nodded politely but didn't engage. Following the plan Grandpa and I had developed, I went straight to my bedroom, locked the door, and began implementing our strategy. First, I changed all my passwords, email, banking, social media, everything. I froze my credit cards and ordered replacements with new numbers. I called my bank to flag recent unauthorized transactions and placed alerts on all my accounts. I documented everything I could find missing or damaged, taking photos and noting approximate values. Then came the hidden camera setup Grandpa had purchased for me, small, inconspicuous devices placed in my bedroom and office to capture any future unauthorized entry. While I had no interest in recording Natalie's private activities, I needed evidence if she attempted to access my financial documents or possessions again. Monday morning, I left for work as usual but took a personal day, meeting Grandpa at a nearby cafe instead. We finalized our approach, and he called my parents to request a family meeting that evening to discuss an important financial matter. Predictably, they assumed it concerned Grandpa's estate planning and agreed without hesitation. I spent the day working remotely and consulting with a lawyer Grandpa recommended. By evening, I was nervous but resolved. Arriving home, I found Natalie trying on my work clothes, my closet in disarray. Rather than confront her immediately, I simply said, "We're having a family meeting in an hour. Mom and Dad are coming over, and Grandpa George too." "What? Why?" Her surprise quickly turned to suspicion. "Grandpa has something to discuss with all of us." She looked immediately anxious. "Is he okay? Is it about his will or something?" The fact that her mind went straight to inheritance spoke volumes. "He's fine. Just be here." I busied myself straightening the apartment, ignoring Natalie's increasingly persistent questions. My parents arrived first, both looking concerned but not particularly alarmed. "Abigail," my mother said with a perfunctory hug. "What's this about? Your grandfather was very cryptic." "He'll explain when he arrives." Natalie had transformed completely, changing into a conservative sweater set and minimal makeup, her responsible adult costume I'd seen her don for family events where financial support might be discussed. When Grandpa arrived, carrying a briefcase full of documentation, the atmosphere tensed further. "Let's sit down," he said without preamble. We gathered in my living room, my parents and Natalie on the sofa, me in my reading chair, Grandpa standing with authority that reflected his years as a judge. "I've called this meeting because there's been an ongoing situation that needs addressing." He opened his briefcase. "Specifically, the financial exploitation of Abigail by Natalie, enabled by both of you." He looked pointedly at my parents. My mother gasped. "What are you talking about?" "Dad, that's a terrible accusation," my father added. Natalie immediately teared up. "Grandpa, how could you say that? I've been struggling since my breakup, and Abby's been kind enough to let me stay." "Save the performance, Natalie," Grandpa interrupted. "We have evidence." He laid out the documentation methodically, the unauthorized credit card charges, the disappearing cash, the attempted bank account access. With each piece of evidence, Natalie's expression cycled through shock, denial, and calculation. "These could be mistakes," my mother suggested weakly. "Credit card mix-ups happen all the time. Perhaps one or two charges might be explained that way," Grandpa conceded. "But dozens? Along with missing cash and attempted account access? The pattern is clear." Natalie switched tactics. "Abby, I can explain. I was going to pay you back for everything once I got a job. You know how hard I've been looking." "Have you?" I finally spoke. "Because according to your text messages, you haven't submitted a single application in 2 months." Her eyes widened. "You read my texts? That's invasion of privacy." "Actually," Grandpa interjected, "these were provided by the private investigator I hired. The same investigator who documented your daily activities for the past week, not one job interview, but plenty of shopping, lunches, and spa visits." "You had me followed?" She looked genuinely outraged. "That's stalking." "It's legal investigation of suspected fraud," he corrected calmly. My father looked increasingly uncomfortable. "George, this seems excessive. Whatever misunderstandings have occurred." "There's no misunderstanding," I said firmly. "Natalie has been systematically stealing from me and lying about it. And based on these emails," I held up printouts, "you both knew about it." My mother blanched. Those are private communications. So you don't deny their content? Grandpa asked. The room fell silent. We were trying to help both our daughters, my father finally said. Natalie needed support after exhausting her trust fund, and you, he looked at me, you've always been the responsible one. We knew you could handle it. Handle being stolen from? Handle having my home invaded and my privacy violated? Handle being manipulated and gaslighted by my entire family? That's dramatic, Abby, my mother scoffed, though her confidence was clearly shaken. Is it? Then let me be perfectly clear about what happens next. I stood, finding strength in my preparation. Natalie has exactly 1 week to move out of my apartment. She will repay every cent she has stolen, or I will file charges for theft and fraud. I am cutting off all financial ties with this family, and I will be accessing my trust fund, yes, the one you kept secret from me for 7 years, to ensure my complete independence going forward. Natalie's tears vanished instantly. Trust fund? What trust fund? Grandpa explained the existence of both trusts, how Natalie had exhausted hers while mine had grown untouched. That's not fair. Natalie exploded. Why should she still have hers when mine is gone? Because she didn't know about it, Grandpa said simply. She's been working 60-hour weeks and living frugally while you spent a fortune on frivolities. My mother looked desperately between us. Abigail, you can't just throw your sister out. Where will she go? That's not my problem anymore, I said, surprised by my own steadiness. She can move in with you, or find her own place. She's 25 years old, it's time she supported herself. On what income? My father demanded. You know how tough the job market is. Actually, Grandpa interjected, I've arranged an entry-level position at my friend's law firm if Natalie is interested. Administrative work, modest salary, but real experience and growth potential. Natalie looked horrified. Administrative work? Like answering phones? Like earning a living, I corrected. Like everyone else does. For the next hour, the conversation cycled through predictable patterns, my parents' denials weakening in the face of evidence, Natalie's tactics shifting from tears to rage to bargaining, and finally, the beginning of reluctant acceptance. 1 week, I reiterated as the meeting concluded. And I'll need your key before you leave tonight, Natalie. You can't be serious, she whispered. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. After my parents and sister departed, Natalie slamming the door hard enough to shake the walls, Grandpa stayed behind. You did well, he said, pride evident in his voice. How do you feel? I considered the question carefully. Sad. Angry. But also, relieved. Like I can finally breathe in my own home again. The road ahead won't be easy. Your parents will likely pressure you to reconsider. I know. But I can't go back to how things were. I looked around my apartment, still bearing the marks of Natalie's occupation but already feeling more like mine again. Thank you for helping me stand up for myself. You did the standing, Abby girl. I just provided the information you should have had years ago. As he left, I locked the door behind him, savoring the simple pleasure of security in my own space. The coming weeks would bring challenges, but for the first time in months, I faced the future with confidence rather than dread. 1 month after the confrontation, I stood in my living room, surveying the transformation. The space had been reclaimed, my furniture restored to its original positions, surfaces cleared of Natalie's clutter, walls bearing only the artwork I had carefully selected over years. The air smelled of lemon polish and the lavender candles I could finally burn without triggering Natalie's complaints about the old lady scent. The process hadn't been simple. True to form, Natalie had ignored the 1-week deadline, requiring Grandpa to initiate formal eviction proceedings before she finally departed, taking several of my belongings with her despite my vigilance. She had moved to our parents' house under strict conditions established by Grandpa: get a job, begin therapy, and develop a repayment plan for what she had stolen from me. To everyone's surprise, including perhaps her own, Natalie had accepted the administrative position Grandpa arranged. According to him, she was showing up on time and completing her work adequately, if not enthusiastically. Her supervisor reported moments of genuine effort between the expected complaints and drama. My relationship with my parents remained strained. They had apologized under pressure from Grandpa, but their remorse seemed more connected to being caught than to any real understanding of the harm they had caused. Still, small steps were being taken. We had established a monthly dinner where conversation remained carefully neutral: weather, cooking, safe aspects of work. The deeper fractures would take much longer to heal, if they ever did completely. The most profound changes were internal. With access to my trust fund, I had initially considered moving to a larger apartment or even buying property. Instead, I invested most of it, using only a small portion to upgrade my apartment security system and take a 2-week vacation to Portugal, my first real break in 6 years. At work, unburdened by Natalie's constant disruptions and financial drain, my performance rebounded. The promotion I had missed during her stay was offered again, and I accepted with confidence rather than the desperate relief I might have felt before. Grandpa and I had dinner every Sunday, our bond stronger than ever. "You know what makes me proudest?" he said one evening over dessert. "You're still working just as hard even knowing you have that financial cushion. Character isn't built by circumstances but by choices." "I enjoy my work," I replied simply. "The money gives me options, not an excuse to disengage." My social life, which Natalie had correctly identified as nearly non-existent, began to flourish as I reconnected with friends I had neglected during her stay. I joined a book club, started taking pottery classes on Saturdays, and even went on a few dates, none serious yet, but enjoyable steps toward a more balanced life. The most surprising development came 6 weeks after Natalie's departure. She called, asked to meet for coffee, and arrived on time, dressed simply and carrying a small gift bag. "It's not much," she said awkwardly, pushing it toward me. "Just a replacement for the cashmere sweater I ruined." The sweater inside wasn't the same brand as my original. Clearly she couldn't afford that on her new salary, but the gesture itself was unprecedented. "Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. "That's thoughtful." "Don't make a big deal of it," she mumbled, but I could tell she was pleased by my reaction. "Anyway, therapy is making me do all these immense things. It's super annoying." I smiled at the familiar complaint delivered without the usual manipulative edge. "How's the job going?" "It's not what I expected." She stirred her coffee thoughtfully. "My boss actually said I did a good job on this filing system I reorganized. No one's ever really praised me for work before, just for, existing. That must feel good." "Kind of does," she admitted. "Weird, right?" We talked for an hour, the longest civil conversation we'd had in years. As we prepared to leave, she hesitated. "I'm sorry, Abby. Not just for the sweater. For everything. I was awful to you." "Yes, you were," I agreed, not unkindly. "I was jealous," she continued, the admission clearly difficult. "You always had everything together, and I just didn't. I worked for what I had, Natalie. That's the difference." "I'm starting to get that now." She looked down at her hands. "Anyway, I'm paying off what I owe you. It'll take time with my salary, but I will." I nodded, appreciating the commitment more than the money itself. One step at a time. As I hosted a small housewarming party to reclaim my space fully, surrounded by true friends and Grandpa, I reflected on the lessons of the past year. I had learned that standing up for myself wasn't selfish but necessary, that family loyalty shouldn't require self-destruction, and that some relationships need boundaries to become healthy. Most importantly, I had discovered my own strength. The sister who had lived like a queen in my apartment had inadvertently given me the greatest gift, the push I needed to claim my own crown, not of entitlement but of self-worth. Grandpa raised his glass for a toast. "To Abigail, who reminds us that true wealth isn't measured by bank accounts but by the courage to live authentically." As glasses clinked and conversation flowed through my peaceful home, I felt gratitude for the painful journey that had led to this moment of genuine contentment. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took advantage of your generosity? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this resonated with you, please like and subscribe for more real-life experiences and lessons learned. Thank you for joining me today, and remember, sometimes the hardest conversations lead to the most meaningful growth. See you next time.